You're now listening to Sound Talent Media. Check out more shows at soundtalentmedia.com.
Shopify grows your business no matter how far or big you grow. Shopify is the global commerce platform that helps you sell at every stage of your business. Whether you're selling your fans' next favorite shirt or an exclusive piece of podcast merch, Shopify helps you sell everywhere. Shopify powers 10% of all e-commerce in the U.S. Allbirds, Rothy's, Brooklinen, and millions of other entrepreneurs of every size across 175 countries. Plus, Shopify's award-winning help is there to support your success every step of the way. Because businesses that grow, grow with Shopify. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/income, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/income now to grow your business, no matter what stage you're in.
Hey, what's up, everyone? I'm Matt Migaki, the vocalist of Cryptopsy and the host of the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast, where I sit down with fellow metal musicians. We talk all about their lives and music while sharing killer craft beers. If you've ever wanted to sneak backstage and share a beer with one of your favorite musicians, well, Vox and Hops is the podcast for you. This week on the podcast, I had an amazing conversation with Morgan Lander and S.J. Jones about Kitty Pig. There is this episode and over 450 other ones to help you enjoy life, metal, and craft beer. So what are you waiting for? It's time to become a Vox and Hops head. Cheers!
What is up, good people? Welcome back to another episode of the podcast. Yes, I know this sounds different because guess what? I'm still in Tennessee. This time I am out in Sevierville. I took my family to Dollywood and we are hanging out in the Smoky Mountains, something I've never done before. And yes, this is the longest trip I've been on since starting the podcast, I think. That's kind of wild to think about. It's only been 2 weeks, but this is the longest I've been away from home since, yeah, wow, that's kind of crazy. I didn't think about it till just now. But anyway, that's why you're going to hear bugs and stuff in the background of this one as well, and probably some cars, possibly my family coming out to the hot tub here in a moment, because we are in a cabin with a hot tub. Anyway, you don't care about that. What you do care about is this episode with Phil McKnight. Now, this is the Patreon bonus episode I recorded with Phil months and months ago. A bunch of the patrons messaged me and said, this absolutely must be public. So I figured, what better time than now to make it so. So if you did not hear the first episode with Mr. Phil McKnight, I suggest going back a few in your podcast player and listening to that. We talked for, I think, almost 4 hours total between the two episodes. It was a really great conversation. On this section in particular, he was very, very candid with some things that happened in his personal life, and I don't think he's ever really talked about those things publicly before, which is probably why the patrons insisted that it be public. So, yes, this is round 2 with Phil McKnight. This was a Patreon bonus episode way back a few months ago when he was first on the podcast, and this happens once in a while. It's happened 3 or 4 times where the patrons said, hey, this can't be behind the wall. This needs to be public. This is one of those times. So I hope you enjoy this conversation with Mr. Phil McKnight. I'm going to stop yapping so you can get right to it. Here we go. Phil, welcome to what I like to call the cool kid section of the podcast. This is only for cool kids. I'm not one, but they listen. The cool kids listen to it. So here we are hanging out at the cool kids table, swapping sandwiches and whatever.
Well, thank you for letting me be with the cool kids.
Yeah.
This is cool.
Yeah, it's good stuff. So, Phil, you live in Arizona.
Yeah.
And this is I feel like a pretty appropriate question for somebody who lives in that neck of the woods. How do you feel about aliens? You think we're being visited? You ever seen anything weird in those wide open skies you guys got?
You know, I don't know. You'd think I'd have more, because I'm so opinionated. This is what I was telling you about having no hobbies or interests really besides guitars. I really have no thoughts on aliens at all. I guess I'm not going to say I don't believe there's aliens or in aliens and stuff, but I do think that a lot of alien stuff is just, you know, cutting edge tech.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Being confused for alien stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, let's face it, if you were in the 50s and you saw the SR-71 fly over, you'd be like, it's a spaceship, right?
It's right.
Right. So, I mean, I remember, I mean, it was a long time. It was probably 15 years later. But I remember one time in the desert, we saw a light and it went like this and it did this and then it shot up real fast and it came down this way. And I remember us seeing it going, whoa, what was that? It had to be, there's no way it was a Harrier. And where I live in Phoenix, Yuma, the Marine base is in Yuma, which is right next to the border of Mexico. They have Harriers, which are vertical, planes that go vertical. And we were like, there's no way a Harrier could go that fast. Fast forward a decade and a half later, you see drones and you go, well, what if that was a drone? Right? Like that's what I would have perceived a drone at the time, especially at night with a light, as a spaceship. So I mean, like I said, I kind of, on one hand, believe that there's aliens and stuff because, I mean, the universe is big, but also on the second hand, I don't think I've seen anything that makes me believe that to be 100% true.
Right. Yeah, I've definitely seen some things I couldn't really explain from my vantage point, but I could totally see, if you could look at it from another angle, how there might be an explanation for it.
Sure.
So, because when I'm just looking up, straight up, and it's like, well, that looked really weird to me, but that could have been two things, and I thought it was one. There's a lot of reasons for it, but like, I want to believe that because it's fun. It's fun to think about.
Sure.
But sometimes I waffle back and forth, like there's sometimes I'm like, man, there's some shenanigans afoot. And then sometimes I'm like, that could be a drone.
I think the easy part is when it comes to aliens, Bigfoot, and I'm not trying to lump those two things together, but you understand like these concepts, right?
Yeah.
Loch Ness, you name it. Sure. You can explain away the bad footage and the lack of footage 20 years ago. 20 years from now, it's going to be hard to explain if it doesn't exist, right?
Yep.
I mean, you can't have a billion 4K cameras everywhere on on all the time, and then still go, it's just really hard to get footage of it. You know what I mean? Like if you ever gone down, we're both the YouTube rabbit holes that are fun and interesting. One of them that is a rabbit hole that I did a few years back that was crazy was, you ever do like Russian dash cam footage? Yeah, right. And just go down, right. Just the insane amount of things caught because I guess in Russia, like their kidnappings are so high and for insurance, they have to, car insurance stuff. It's not just kidnappings, but the car insurance stuff. So
I've heard it's a combination of like the car insurance stuff, there's a lot of corruption. So like being able to prove without a shadow of a doubt something did happen, and the laws are just a little bit different than we're used to, I guess. Right.
So they all have dash cams, right? And so you watch all that stuff that gets caught and it's just off the charts, right? Because I mean, it's every car running a camera all the time, right? So the $1 million question would be, in 20 years from now, with all the cars, I mean, look, whether we're all electric in 20 years or all hybrid or all gas, or it doesn't matter. Here's what we know. All cars are going to be like Teslas. They're going to have 5 cameras on all the time.
For sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Right. I mean, regardless of where the technology takes us eventually, the camera technology is definitely, is definitely going to be a thing. And I can't imagine if half the cars on the planet Earth have 5 directional cameras that all can see in, 1080p or 4K, right? Plus all the phones, plus the thing. I think we're going to know, something soon, right? Like it's
yeah, I think so. I think the cameras are going to, I've heard this, 20 years is probably an appropriate timeline, actually. But I've heard that said before. And Neil deGrasse Tyson, I've heard him say that before, where he's just like, can't, what in the world? Sorry, my phone's going off, but what in the world?
It's
I have
aliens.
do not disturb on the aliens. The government don't want me talking about this. It was my smoker going off, but my smoker's not on. I was like, okay, well, nobody's home. The smoker's not on. It's literally not plugged in. I don't know how that happened. That was a weird.
You're like, my barbecuer is texting me because it's lonely. Wants to know if
I think I got to go grill, Phil.
Yeah. It's like, if you have a brisket, just saying, Blake, if you have a brisket, I'd be up for you bringing it out and sticking it.
I'm just by myself out here on the porch. It's so cold. Would you mind just bringing me a brisket? Well, sure, Mr. Rectech, I'll bring you a brisket. No problem. I can.
By the way, what just happened to you is why I refused to have a scale that has an app. Because I go, there's no way. If my scale started texting me, I'd be pissed. Be like, Phil, haven't seen you a few days. Just want to make sure.
Make sure you weren't binge eating.
Yeah, you okay?
Hey, I hear you're doing a podcast with this pizza guy.
Yeah.
You sure that's a good idea? Yeah. Yeah, I don't have a lot of connected things, actually. Like, I have my phone. I feel like that's enough monitoring on me. I don't have Alexa or Google or Home or anything. And I've noticed it's a weird generational thing. And it's not even generational, but like my sister's 5 years younger than me. She's got all that stuff. And her husband don't care. And I'm just like, that's too much for me. Like, the phone's already a lot of tracking. And I don't know that I need anything additional. I don't know. Maybe I'm sure I'm being overly paranoid about it, but at the same time, it's just kind of weird.
I have no say. I kind of a hybrid of you and your sister. I don't care. I don't care if the government's listening. That usually triggers people if you say that. But anyways, I don't give a crap what they're doing.
Right.
What I hate actually is the technology itself. It's what drives me crazy. I hate technology talking to me. Right.
Okay. Fair enough. Yeah.
I have this thing. It's like almost like a tick. When I'm in the car and the GPS is talking, it's like, turn right here. I'm like, you turn right here.
Don't tell me what to do. Yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes like if we were in the car together, I'll just do that. And then I always apologize. Like, yeah, I know I talk back to my GPS because I feel like I don't like the technology just telling me to do stuff. And I feel like I should fight. Like, I'm not just going to do as you say.
Just because you say to do it.
Just because you say to do it, even though I really need you to tell me where to go because I'm lost right now. But
right.
So, and so it's not that I just don't want more tech than I already have. I have enough tech. You know?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good.
It's good. Right.
But then I have friends. So the listeners all know this, but I don't know if you do. But like, I'm blind in one eye, and I wasn't always that way. I remember having stereo vision. It was really nice. And so I'm like, I ain't doing the brain chip implant. Like, I'm not doing that Elon Musk thing. I'm not doing it. But then I have friends be like, what if you could see out of your eye again? I'm like, oh, hold on now. Maybe I might consider it if that's an option.
Well, plus, if you do that, then think about it this way, because you're half tech and half person. When the robots take over, you're going to be like, hey, I'm one of you, kind of like, I'm with you.
Or would they be like an even worse thing? Like, you're a half breed. We got to kill you too. Yeah.
Yeah, it could go either way.
It could go either way. Yeah. Have you ever used ChatGPT? You ever used any of that stuff? Yeah.
Yeah. So I do two things. Not only do I use ChatGPT, I use I don't know if you know, you can buy. I have it for YouTube.
What do you mean?
So I get a lot of grief, which is hilarious because it's not me. I said it for a while. I say it on my show all the time. I go, I don't do the titles to my videos.
Oh,
right?
Okay.
It's TubeBuddy.
TubeBuddy. Okay, yeah, I've heard of TubeBuddy. Yeah.
So it's ChatGPT, but it's a what do you call it? It's a plugin. So you buy it. It's like $200 for a year, and it's a plugin, and it goes into your YouTube. It's so when I open my YouTube screen, it's all the icons for TubeBuddies everywhere, right?
Got it.
So when
Okay.
I go to title a video, I type in my video and it's always like, this Strandberg guitar was really cool. And then it goes, give me options. And it goes, you'll never believe what this Strandberg did to this, toddler. And then I'm like, all right, that's good. And then I just, and what people don't understand, I have people in the comments and they'll go, I saw you change the thumbnail. No, I'm like, no, that's the AI. You pick like 4 thumbnails, 4 titles, and then the AI puts them up and rotates them until they stick.
Until it does until it finds one that people like and it goes with that. Yeah.
So I'm like, yeah, that's what I do.
Who cares if you change a thumbnail?
Oh, I don't know. People get upset. But here's what's funny. What's funny is I get that from companies though. Companies will reach out, especially on the live show, right? Because the live show, my live show, the title of the video is whatever I talked about the longest.
Okay.
That's been a rule for years and years and years, right? The reason is because even though I take the time to timestamp every freaking thing in the show, which takes me 2 hours, right, to do that after I do the show, I've done that forever. People still go in the comments and like, man, it's 7 minutes in, you still haven't talked about the thing on the title. So now I timestamp it, and I always make sure the title is the longest thing, and then I separate that timestamp. But then what I do now is I'll go, like someone will go, hey, is PRS Guitars going to be on sale next month? And I'll go, that's the question. And now what I do is I type in the question into the chat GPT, thing, right? The AI, and the AI goes, why is PRS blowing out their inventory? And I'm like, okay, that's the title. And I push it, right? And it always gets more views, right? Because it's AI, and it's obviously, it's not only AI, it's AI specific to YouTube. So it's obviously
it's optimizing for something very, very specific. Yeah.
Right. And so I do that. And then the company will reach out and go, yeah, I saw your title. And I'm like, it's not mine. I'm sorry, guys. And I'll send them the screenshot. It was the AI titled this. And how the hell I got any views before? My thumbnails were always just a random, whatever the YouTube suggested screenshot was, which is, I always call it my resting dir face, where I'm like, dir. Like every screenshot is me making a dumb face. That was my title or my thumbnail. And then my title was just a description of what it was. Right. And that worked for some reason until it didn't.
Right. Does TubeBuddy create the thumbnails too, or do you make 4 of them and it
well, yeah, and it will both. It will do random screenshots and then clean them up and do all that stuff, or you can just suggest, ones that we drop in. You know what I mean? For the live show, it is just a screenshot, right? Okay, it's a screenshot, and then we use some AI that puts a little thing around it and cleans it up, and because to me the thumbnail is not so much important on the show. Right. The only thing I've learned is, it's depressing to say this. It actually makes me sad thinking it just now, but it's true. The only thing I've learned is if I smile in the thumbnail, I get less views. So I always try to grab so if I'm like, the views are down. Like the whole concept of me being happy apparently irritates even people who like the channel.
No happy Phil.
No happy Phil. So if you look at my thumbnails, like 90% of them are like, they're just me looking down.
Yeah, they
just
are.
looking down. Even though it doesn't make any sense. Like Fenders are great. And it's just me going like this.
I love the new Telecaster. Angry face.
Angry face. So yeah,
I see a lot of people, I just talked about this here recently, but like I see a lot of people complain about titles and thumbnails, like not YouTubers themselves, but literally the consumers of the content. They're like, I hate these clickbait titles and these stupid thumbnails. Yeah. And I'm like, I understand why you hate them. Well, first of all, I have no issue with a clickbait title as long as what is in the title is in the video. Then I'm good. I only take issue with it if they title it something. It's like, you didn't talk about that at all. Which is rare. That almost never happens.
Perfect. So to me, it's a perspective thing. You nailed it. So as someone who loves YouTube, I love it. Like I love YouTube.
And you consume a lot of it too.
I consume insane amounts, and it depends on my mood. But I'll tell you, I have a thing, and my thing, of course, is like a lot of people, it's sharks.
Yeah,
I don't care what the video is about. If you put the word shark or a picture of a shark in a thumbnail, I'm watching that video. And no types of video, no cat videos, no, Chinese cities falling apart videos, none of that stuff has clickbait like sharks. Do you know how many videos I've seen? Hundreds, where there's no shark in the video, right? Like it's a picture of a shark and it's eating a dude, and you click on it and it's just some guy he's got 3 million views showing you footage of the water, and you're waiting and you're waiting and you're waiting, and it's just clickbait, right? So nobody clickbaits harder than people trying to, making shark content.
Or no shark content, apparently.
But here's what I will say unapologetically about clickbait titles and thumbnails. So I started, like I said, I started making videos. My earliest videos, like late 2014, 2015. That's saying making videos is tough. I made some videos and they're on there, right? But we've talked about on the full show. I officially call myself a YouTube channel as of 2017, which is still a long time, right? Okay, that's still a long time. I mean, I don't know what that is. So it's coming up 7 years, 8 years. Okay, 7 years, legitimately working at it as a full-time content creator, right? I have to now contend with, and I say I, meaning you, we have to contend with now, do Kevin Hart and The Rock make YouTube? Like, that guy makes blockbuster movies. I gotta take your attention. Here's what I gotta fight. I gotta fight OnlyFans girls, shark videos, Kevin Hart, any political thing that's scaring the crap out of you, nuclear war videos, I mean, the amount of content that's thrown at a person that's either trying to scare them to death, make them horny as hell, right?
That's what you do, though, right?
Yeah, that's what I do. And so here's the thing, and here I am going, I gotta fight on that level, right? And here's what people don't understand. There's a reason why TV worked the way it did for so long. There's a reason why a show, pick your show. I don't care if it's Friends or if it's, Cheers or, you name it, right? Whatever show you like. Okay.
Yep.
It's on prime time, right? Like if you do well, you get the spot where everybody's watching TV, right?
Yep.
And if you're Bob the Fix-It guy, you got 1 PM on Saturday, right?
Yeah. On OPB.
Which is fine. The problem, though, now is that it's not the time of the day that YouTube is selling. It's the real estate of the suggestion.
Yep.
And so you have to think of those side pictures of you, those side pictures of the videos next to the people watching this video, next to these videos. That's the primetime spot. And there is no non-primetime spot.
Right.
There's only primetime spot.
There's either primetime spots or no spot.
Right. And so now you got to fight. So I got to go, hey, do you want to watch this dolphin fighting a shark video? Do you want to watch the end of the world video that the news is showing you, whatever, right? Or do you want to watch Phil talk about 500K versus 250K potentiometers? Right. And you're like, Phil can wait.
Yeah. Right. I got to watch this dolphin fight a shark. Like, I have to watch that. Yeah.
Right. And so I look at it when the AI started suggesting titles, right? It did some stuff that was interesting. And I'm we talked about this. I like to learn, right? And I learn from mistakes, and one thing the AI's taught me is there's a couple things that I should have known, right? That I'm sure marketing companies know, and that's why you're watching those videos over our kinds of content, because we're trying to win you over with substance, like a subject that we think you're interested in, like the guitar, right?
Right.
But what happens is like, here's a good example of something silly, and this is where you need to be informed about yourself as a person. The reality is that if I put a video called, I got a Kiesel Delos. That video, same video, okay? If it's retitled to, you won't believe what they did to the Kiesel Delos, from changing the subject from me to you, you're more interested.
Right.
Right. And
Automatically.
it's automatically.
Mm-hmm.
So like, Dovey Doss taught me this. He said, he went through my videos because he's a nice guy. You know, Dovey.
I love him.
Great. Yeah, I love him.
Mm-hmm.
Dovey just one day calls me, he drives around the country. So whenever he's right before he's in a dead zone, he calls me for some reason. He calls me up and he'll call me up and go, Phil, you need to put videos on Facebook. And I go, okay. And that's it. That's like the whole conversation.
Yep.
No, he'll, and so one time he calls me and he goes, hey, Phil, don't talk in past tense on your titles. Make everything present tense. Not what? Yeah. Oh God. I went through, I did exactly what he said. Literally, I had a video. You can't make this up. I had a video that was already dormant, is a month and a half old. It not only picked up a week later, then it went viral. And the change went from, instead of, in fact, so not to guess, let me look and tell you an actual for instance so it makes sense.
I'm really curious because I made one, I don't do nearly as much on YouTube as either of you guys. The podcast is my main thing, but I do once in a while get a fire in my belly, usually after I talk to you at some event, and I'll start making videos again. And I made one that did pretty well, but not as well as I had hoped. And it was when I torture tested a Behringer and lit it on fire.
That was a great video, though.
Thank you. I'm glad you liked it. And I thought it probably should have done a little better, but like, I'm fine with it. But now I'm like, I wonder if I need to redo the title, like just out of curiosity.
Not only did all the titles that he suggest doing that work for all the titles, the one in particular that I did first that worked the way I told you was, I did a video called "I Took the Sweetwater Sales Engineer Test."
I remember when you did that. Yeah.
And I changed the title. That video only did 20,000 views, which it's a lot, right? 20,000 views. Did 20,000 views. Mm-hmm. I retitled to "I'm Taking the Sweetwater Sales Engineer's Test."
Oh,
changing it from past tense to present. And then Dovey goes, people don't care about what happened. They want to know what's happening. It's happening now. You're missing out now. Watch now.
Right.
And I go, well, he's only got 1 billion views, so I'll probably listen to him, right?
Right. Sure. He drives around in a gold-plated Mercedes. I'm going to listen to him.
Yeah, I'm going to listen to him. And so that's right. Like for instance, here.
So what did it do after you changed the title?
So let's take a look. I'll tell you because it told you it was dormant. You know how videos work. They go and then they trickle down. Eventually, like a car, they run out of gas, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then even if they keep getting views, they just get close to no views. Oh, there it is. I passed it. Sorry. So that one was one of those ones that already had died on the Vine. It's at 59,000 views.
Wow.
So its resurgence did more than it did originally, which
That's
is,
crazy.
it's very rare when they do that.
Very
right.
Rare.
And
that can't be a coincidence.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So like, for instance, a perfect example, if I said, I sold my Kiesel, I don't know why I'm pointing at, you know what I mean? One of these guitars. I sold my Kiesel. You have to put, I'm selling my Kiesel. Then this is why. Right.
Now that you say that though, now that I'm thinking through, I don't spend as much time on YouTube as a lot of people do. I use it like an old person. I go there, like I'll see somebody post like yourself or somebody else post something about like, hey, I made this video about this thing. I'm like, I am interested in that thing. And then I go to that and I find that video and I watch it and I leave. Like, but I know a lot of people, most people even aren't like that. But once in a while I get sucked into the normal person YouTube hole, like as happens. And now that I think about that, the videos that I can remember kind of drawing me in from the sidebar, they're like, I'm selling this. I'm doing this. Yeah. I am going here. Like, and it's like, I didn't even realize that was drawing me in. But now that you've said that, I go to where like, I'm doing this now. Okay, let's go watch him do this, whatever it is. That's crazy.
And this is what I said. I do it unapologetically. Like I tell the audience all the time, like, look, I'm not going to deceive anybody. I'm not going to be like, this guitar gave me cancer. Like right. Like I said, there's a line, obviously, not only ethically, but also just crossing the stupid line. Right.
Right.
And there's bold-faced, like, I get it. Like, ones I try to stay away from that bug me personally is when it's like, I hate this guitar. And then you click on it and they're like, I don't hate it. And you're like, oh,
Right.
screw off.
Oh,
right.
like,
Like, don't
oh,
take,
come on.
don't take me down that road. Right. Just give me the, but I try, like I said, you have to do your best to win against this onslaught of, YouTube suppressing, right? Because remember, YouTube, you know how it is. YouTube will literally, it's just trying to keep people engaged, which is good, but it's going to suggest, what's it? Jimmy Fallon, right?
Right.
I mean, let's just be honest. YouTube's like Phil McKnight or Jimmy Fallon. I'm going to suggest Jimmy Fallon, right?
Yeah.
And I got to fight that.
You got my wheels turning. I'm remembering what I titled that video now too. I'm like, I think I titled it Behringer pedal torture test or something. Now I have to go, I'm torturing a Behringer pedal.
Yeah. Why I'm torturing.
Yeah. That's it.
Interesting. Yeah. So like I said, I got more aggressive with that. I don't really find it, it has a huge dividend. Does it make sense? The clicky stuff.
But consistently, if you can get 10 to 20% more people over time.
It's really just about, and I tend to be more aggressive with it. It's funny. This was funny. For some reason, if you do this for any length of time, like any job, you become good at it. I mean, hell, I'm not saying great at it. I'm just saying you become good at it anyway, right? Like, here's a good example. And I hate saying this because, boy, talk about giving somebody the keys to the kingdom. I don't have a video about a Squire Epiphone doesn't have 100,000 views. It doesn't exist. If you go on, right? So like this is absolutely true. When my channel starts to slow down, like I've done a couple of videos and just people aren't grabbing it and they're not doing it. All of a sudden, Epiphone Squire time. Like it's just, and every Squire and Epiphone I've ever done, I bought them. I just literally buy them and just do the video. Right. Yep. And one reason I tell you that makes it sound easy. I mean, to give you ethics thing, I mean, if I had half a brain, I don't, then every video would be that. I would do one a week, right? Because they would pay dividends. Because the math doesn't show that people would tire from it because 80% of the people watching that aren't your subscribers. So it's all new generated viewership, right? It's because people are searching those terms, right? And that's how your video gets fed to them because they're searching Epiphones and Squires and you're feeding in. But for me, sometimes I get really aggressive with the titling and thumbnails when I'm passionate about something and I know it's not going to, I know people would love it if they watched it, but I know they're not going to click on it.
Right. Unless I drive them to it somehow.
Right. Like, you got this friend Dave and he's got all this passion and he makes this great product and no one cares about, but if you saw it, you would love his product. Right.
Yeah.
And so sometimes I find, I almost have to sometimes sometimes I do. I apologize to a lot of smaller companies when I work with them because I tell them up front, I go, look, no one's going to watch a video about your guitar. No one cares. Right. No one's looking
diehard people will watch it, but not.
Right. But I go, I mean, I want this to get fed to at least a certain percentage of the audience. I'm not even talking about viral. I'm just talking about, get it suggested to most of your audience. And what people don't understand is if people don't click on it, see, it used to work so easy, right? YouTube's used to be so easy in the concept of if people watched your video, YouTube would suggest your video. Right? That's still true. The problem though is YouTube, before YouTube calculates whether or not somebody watches or not to suggest it, they calculate how many people didn't click on it.
Right. Because they throw it in front of a bunch of people for a certain amount of time, and then if people click it, they show it to more people. Basically.
And what people don't understand is that what YouTube has decided to do is, I have a subscriber base, and let's say I make a video and it sends it out to 2,500 people of my subscribers, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the title is, I finally got a Boss pedal. And the audience goes, oh, he was talking about that before. Yeah, I'll watch that later, right?
Mm-hmm.
If enough of you go, I'll watch that later, it stops suggesting it to the other subscribers.
To anyone, yeah.
Because you're not clicking on it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, for instance, you know what I do? Because I have YouTube Premium, you know, I pay for the thing.
Sure.
What I do for my fellow YouTubers, if you have YouTube Premium, this is a good thing to know because it's the best thing you can do for anybody if you love them. If you want to support the channel, screw thumbs up, screw subscribe, all that stuff. That's great. But if you really love a channel and you really want to help them and you have Premium, what you do is you download every video.
Hi, I'm Vincent, and I'm here to talk about the Merit Mercury X. My dad's always going on and on about how cool Maris is. He really went off on one about the Mercury X the other day. He said something about a 4,800 hertz sample rate and 99 preset locations in 33 banks, and something along the lines of the most advanced reverb pedal ever devised by man? That's all true, but I only care about one thing. This pedal sounds sick. So make sure you check out the Mercury X and all the other fine products at maris.us, as well as fine retailers worldwide. All right, Dad, now can I have my Pocky?
How exactly do artists get their music on Spotify, Apple Music, Deezer, Tidal, all these services? How in the world do you get your music there? Well, in the past, you had to use something called a record label. But these days, you can use DistroKid. DistroKid is the absolute easiest way to get your music up on streaming services. And it's the most affordable way to do so. Not only do plans start at $22.99 for the entire year, that's less than $2 a month, DistroKid also does not take a cut of your streaming revenue, unlike some other services out there. Even better if you sign up by going to tonemob.com/distrokid. That's tonemob.com/distrokid. One more time, that's tonemob.com/distrokid. You'll get 30% off. That's right, 30% off their already extremely reasonable prices. So go to tonemob.com/distrokid and get your music out there. We are brought to you today by Sweetwater, specifically the Gear Exchange. You may have heard about this. This is a place where you can go to buy and sell your used gear. Maybe you got a pedal over there that's just kind of collecting dust. Maybe there's something you've been eyeing from the Sweetwater catalog. Well, right now is a great time to turn that unused gear into something you're actually going to use. Even better, if you sell on the Gear Exchange, you can keep 100% of the sale as long as you choose a Sweetwater gift card as your payout method. That is not too shabby because, let's be honest, most of this buying and selling we do is just to fund new gear purchases, and that is a great way to reach a wide variety of customers and keep 100% in your pocket, or rather on your pedal board. So go check out the Sweetwater Gear Exchange and turn that unused gear into something that's actually going to help you write that next huge riff.
A download counts on YouTube as a full watch.
Ah.
Because once you download it, you're not watching it on the platform. They don't know how to calculate how far you went into the video, so YouTube just says you watched the whole thing.
So what I'll do and I've done it for you a couple times, is I don't have premium.
Right.
And I know there's a little bit of flaw in this because it doesn't work the same as like a streaming platform, but I'll go to a playlist,
right,
and leave. and just and click go and just go about my day.
Right.
just let it run.
so
I know that's gaming the system. I know that's not what YouTube wants to hear, but it is what it is.
You know what it is? It's tough because, like I said, it's like I said, when I make a video and we do the AI suggestion stuff, so some of the titles we change them to more normal titles once the videos calm down.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
So, like for instance, small companies, what we'll do is I'll tell them, I'll go, like a good example is Beltone. Beltone guitars are made in Florida. Small builder, nice guy, right? He sends out a guitar. It looks like a Telly and a Gibson had a baby. So the title of the video is Fender and Gibson would never do this, right?
Okay.
The video gets clicks. However, what I tell him honestly, because he's a small company, I go, look, here's the thing. You want clicks, right? You want clicks. You want people to see your new product. I want people to see your product. So I'm going to clickbait it for the first 24 to 40 hours. Once the video settles down, I'm going to change it to, checking out a Beltone guitar. The reason is because YouTube is owned by Google, and Google is the greatest search engine in the world. So by definition, because of the way YouTube works, if I title the video Beltone guitar, I'm helping him in a search engine too. Does it make sense?
Yep. So you get the views. Yeah.
Yeah. So the clickbait's to get the views for him, to help him get his eyeballs on his product. But also then the title change later helps the search engine, helps
the
in
long
searches.
tail.
Yeah, the long tail.
Mm-hmm.
And you do all this stuff. And when I talk to small companies, they're like, oh, this is crazy. I didn't know all this stuff. And I'm like, yeah, look, there's a reason why the YouTubers, the bigger channels, they're done helping the small companies because it's a drop in viewership, right? So everything becomes PRS, Gibson, Fender, Epiphone, Squier, right? It's literally like those are the big products that will get the big views, right? And that sucks. I mean, who wants this? I mean, that stuff's great. I loved all that stuff. I own everything I just said, but I kind of want to see, I want to see the small guy in Nebraska's cool, weird guitar that he's making, right? So you try to find, like I said, I'm trying to balance that.
It's tough. I mean, it's something I'm pretty familiar with as far as I'm one of those weird people. I don't know of anybody else that I've met at any of these events that I wear two hats, and one side is creator hat, and that's what most people know.
Right.
Other side is also brand hat. So like doing the string joy stuff. So I'm always looking at it from both sides, and it's a weird thing because like what you said, like the small builders, small brands like ours, it's we sell, quite frankly, the most boring product in the industry, right? Like we have to figure out a way to make the most boring thing exciting to people, and so it's a real challenge to get people's attention on that stuff for sure.
I talked about because you're. Like I said, I don't want to be like, oh, you're so smart, but because you're smart, right? It sounds a little fair. Okay,
thanks,
because you're
Phil.
smart, people probably have no concept. And this is what's great about this, right? Like this is great for your patrons to know. Because so I'll give your patrons a little insight into Blake. You probably don't realize how crazy it is, but the fact that String Joy is in Sweetwater is huge.
Yeah.
Not because they're carried by one of the biggest retailers in the world. It's because how that retailer operates. See, Sweetwater isn't just like, oh, it's a good product, we carry it. Like you have to be on point. Like Sweetwater is like, that's the Super Bowl. They're the A game, right? Like you don't get blessed by Sweetwater and then they pull your product in and then you become huge. You got to be kicking ass for Sweetwater to consider you, right? I mean, the first thing Sweetwater does when a brand and Sweetwater talk is they go out and they look at your socials. They're not looking to beef up. They're not looking to make a brand, right?
No.
They're looking for a brand that's out there, that's effective at social media, effective with their customer base, right? Is making quality. I mean, you got to hit on all cylinders. It has to be priced correctly, a quality product, marketed perfectly almost, right? All those things have to happen for Sweetwater to say yes. Because
right.
Sweetwater is, and again, I always sound like I'm bagging on Guitar Center. People think I always bag on Guitar Center. I'm not bagging on them. I'm just explaining two business models, and one happens, in my opinion, Guitar Center seems to be an antiquated business model. See, Sweetwater Guitar Center is like survival of the fittest, right? They're like, I'll carry your product, and if people buy it, I'll buy more of it.
Right.
Right. And the reason that gets away with that is because Guitar Center can use the old strategy of a mile wide and an inch deep. In other words, it looks like they have every product until you look behind it and go, there's none in stock. Right. Or what? Right. You're like, yeah. Right. Like, I mean, perfect example. I use this all the time. DiMarzio straps, clip-on straps. His number one selling strap is black. What a shocker, right? But of course, he makes neon pink and green and yellow and fuchsia and purple and zebras and right. Guitar Center carried black. Right. Right. And to DiMarzio, a company like DiMarzio, a 300 store chain buying $250,000 worth of straps at a time is epic, right? Mm-hmm. But only black. Right?
Only black.
Right. But Sweetwater, if you go to their warehouse, right, it's every color, right? Even the one that doesn't sell that great, right? Whatever color that is, right? So the point being is that Sweetwater's attitude isn't like, oh, we'll carry one. What's the number one SKU of String Joy? Oh, is that 10 to 46? We'll carry one SKU, right? And we'll see how that product does. They literally go, they look at you, and if you're killing it on all those things, they're going to go, okay, we're going to work with you and carry it a little deeper, right?
Yeah, and I don't think I've ever talked about this. This isn't exactly public, but semi-publicly, right? Right. So when I first started working with Sweetwater on the media side, I love Sweetwater. I'm a massive fan of them, and
Me too.
They actually, a lot of people don't know this. I reached out to them when I first started the podcast back in 2015 to see if they would want to work with me. And I got the classic, like, what's a podcast? Type of thing, you know. So they were the first company I ever, because I thought, what's a company that I really like? What's a retailer I really like that I have worked with for, like, bought stuff from for years that I think I could seriously recommend? And it was Sweetwater. That was clear back then. I didn't start working with them officially until like 2019 or 2018 or something like that.
Right. Me too.
Yeah. But when I first started working with them, I asked for the contact for one of the product guys, because I was like, well, I got the string company here, and they politely, professionally told me to pound sand. Yeah, basically, because he had never heard of us. It's not like no fault of his own. That same person, a couple years later, once we got a little more ground under our feet, was like, actually, let me look. So I'm not hating at all. I'm just saying, to your point, it's like they at first were not interested at all, because of course they didn't see the potential. The reason we got in there was because when they started asking around, he literally started asking the people in his department. The guy 2 chairs down from him played our bass strings. He didn't have to play our bass strings. They carried all these other brands that he could have went down and got for cheap, because they're in the store. He's an employee, right? Right. The guitar department that does all the setups and the repairs was routinely having to wait 4 or 5 extra days, because the customer would be like, hey, no, I want String Joy. I'm going to order them and have them sent to you. Right. Because we were wondering why we're getting all this stuff sent to Fort Wayne. We're like, what is all this? This doesn't make any sense. Right. And then, so they had to actually go and hunt around and find like a large percentage of the staff who had access to other stuff was choosing to use our stuff. And that's a big reason why they ended up bringing us in. So it was a weird chain of events to get in there. It was not easy at all.
No, it's damn near impossible. Right. And that's why I said people don't realize it. They think it's, it doesn't mean anything. It's huge. And it's, like I said, they pay attention, they pay attention to everything.
Everything. Oh yeah. Closely.
And it's, and like I said, I love Sam Ash. I love all the other stores. I mean, of course, I'm a guitar guy, right? So I love them all. Yeah. But, it's not hard to look at the other guys and go, okay, well, that's how it's been done for the last 30 years, right? 40 years, 50 years. And okay, it's working, I guess, and leave it alone. But, like I said, Sweetwater, a little different animal. And like I said, you have to have your A game on every line, right? It's not just the product. It's just not enough that the product's good or the product, whatever. It has, like you said, customers have to demand it almost, right?
They have to feel like they're losing out by not having it.
Yes, yes, because they're literally like, they're smart. They know it's a big deal, and that's why I said it's a feather in your cap because your guys' social media was on point. And also, I mean, like I said, it's hard because I don't want to take away from it. The product is fantastic, but obviously that's only one half of that equation, right?
Right. That's kind of that's the requirement, right? Like if your product's not good, you're probably not going to last long regardless, and it's just what it is. You got to have good product, but that's not enough to set you apart. And this industry is so saturated. Because it's awesome, because working in it is a blessing, and it's like so cool to be around other creators and be in this environment of all these like-minded people, and but because it's so fun and because it's so small, competition is very high, so
yes,
it's tough. But I thank you for saying all that. I really appreciate that, because the team will be happy to hear that from you, because that means you've been around. That means a lot.
Well, your second, the other thing you have strings, you said strings are boring, but strings also, unfortunately, are habits.
Yes. I often say we sell the cigarettes of the guitar world.
Yeah, it's a habit, man. It's a crazy thing. This is what 20 years of fixing guitars, kind of like you mentioned in Sweetwater, where like, hey, customers wanted their string joys sent to them. But what's funny about customers is, that's exactly how customers are. Like, think of how funny it was. They probably didn't even know 90% of the stuff I did to their guitar. Right. Like, I'm going to swap out your potentiometers. They didn't ask if it was Alpha, if it was Borns, if it was Switchcraft, right?
CTS.
CTS. Like, is it right? They didn't even know if this linear versus tapered. Like, they don't even ask, right? They don't have any, any concept, right, of what you're doing. And which is funny because, I was who I am now, which is into it and pretty upfront about, what I'm doing. Because I love the opportunity to teach anybody anything, because I always feel like, man, I wish somebody would have taught me. right. Would have put me 20 years ahead of where I was, at any given point. But a lot of repair shops across the country, the guys just use what's in the bin. But it's funny how many things you could do to a guitar with nobody asking you a question, but strings. I mean, I actually would argue people are more. You could probably convince a Seymour Duncan fan to put a DiMarzio in a pickup in his guitar faster than you convince some Ernie Ball versus D'Addario versus string joy, right? Like it's
tough,
right? Yeah, it's tough. They get really, and the funny thing about that is they all use the same reasoning for why they don't like a string, which it always cracks me up. Like one guy goes, I only play Ernie Balls, I don't play D'Addario because D'Addario's break. Next customer comes in and go, yeah, I just use D'Addario, I don't play Ernie Ball because they break. you're
like, wait, what?
What?
Huh?
Yeah. And you're like, okay.
And what I find it to be perfectly honest, and maybe you can speak to this a little bit. Like our customer service department he's basically a remote guitar tech at this point, because half the time, no, more than half the time, often, I don't even know what the number is. When somebody writes in, they're like, hey, I keep breaking my low E at the bridge. I think your strings suck. And I didn't have this problem before. And it's like, okay, if you keep breaking your string in the same exact place across multiple sets, especially a bigger wound string, there's probably something up with your bridge. Even if you can't tell, like run some fine grit sandpaper over it. There's probably something wrong there because it keeps breaking in the same spot. And a lot of people they think it's the string. It almost never is. Not to say that there isn't things that sneak through sometimes. There are, 100%. But it's almost always an issue with the guitar itself.
Sure.
I had a punk band in the UK that we sponsored that, like, this dude is hard on strings. Hard. He's playing in the middle of the street most of the time. rolling around, bleeding out of his face, and just like he just destroys things. And he kept breaking them at the bridge, and I was like, try this, get some fine grit sandpaper, run it over your bridges. He's like, you know what? Stop breaking strings.
Yeah. Well, it's because one of the things that I like to talk about a whole lot, is you don't have to. People always try to learn, a thing like repair or something. And I always go, learn diagnostics.
Oh yeah.
Because diagnostics are great, because if you can learn how to solve or figure out what the problem is, you don't even have to know how to fix it. You can now communicate to somebody who's going to fix it, how to fix it, right? Or what you think the problem is. And so like my favorite thing, like to credit of the breaking strings, the thing I love the most, number one question we get that always cracks me up is like, my guitar won't stay in tune. And I go, what strings?
Right.
Like when you say that, I'm picturing every string is now flat or out of tune, right? When you hit the chord and it's ringing horrible, could you check each tuning of each string? And then they go, oh, it's just the B and the D, right? And I'm like, oh, okay. Well, that's very odd. You know what I mean? Right? Or if it's the D and G, you're like, okay, that's making a lot of sense why those two would be the problem. Like usually in my experience, the E and B are together as a problem, or the D and G are a problem, right? Because the nut or whatever's happening. But same thing with that, like breaking strings, like, oh, crappy strings that break strings. You're like, like a cool trick. I have a video coming out next week. It's not actually, it's funny. It's Shauna's, my wife, Shauna. It's her video. She wanted to do this video. She's not going to do it though. So she made me do it. It's 10 mistakes guitar players make when restringing guitars.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. And because my wife has restrung a bazillion guitars. And some of the tricks are things that we learned over the years from people, right? Like I'm sure I could learn a lot of stuff from you guys. Just like I've learned a couple of things from, string manufacturers to other guitar techs. But one of the things that I found that's interesting, beginners, okay? This isn't like, so obviously you're a pro guy, the punk rock guy is probably not the problem, but beginners, what I've learned about breaking strings is that beginners break strings differently than pro guys break strings. Okay? And here's what's funny about that. Most beginners, right, when they break strings, it's during tuning. And most pros, when they break strings, it's during playing.
Okay. Yeah. That pencils.
And so what's funny about that is my theory has been beginners mostly break strings from over tuning them, right? Tuning them too high. And a lot of them, what they do the same mistake. They pass the note. That's the downfall of tuners, right? They pass the note and now they're going to the next octave up. Right. And so a guy taught me this. I don't even know the guy, probably an old dude just walked in my store. It's funny. I've learned a lot from guitar techs. I've learned a lot from, builders and stuff, but then just random old dudes that would just come in your shop with that piece of knowledge, right? Yep. Kind of like the guys that would be like, I tasted the motor oil and there's metal in it. You're like, oh man, the guy's a genius.
Why, yes, I did lose my teeth 5 years ago.
But this guy taught me a thing that I love, which is it doesn't matter what gauge the string is, right? If you tune a guitar, let's take 10 to 46, right? So that's good, right? 10 to 46. Yeah. When you tune up, let's say your low E, your A, whatever, and you're tuning a high string, right? You tend to break the high strings the most when tuning. If you're tuning it and you're not sure, because some people, what they do is they think it's too high now. They're not sure, but they keep going because they're like, well, it says I got 2 more notes to go to get back to E.
Yep.
Here's the trick he taught me, which works awesomely. You just take the string and pull it side to side, and then take any string that's in tune that for sure is in tune, and pull it side to side. They'll feel the same.
Yep.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
That makes sense. And you're like, no, that can't. And you do it, and I go, it's funny. And all of a sudden, so if you go, oh, like you just notice, all you're really noticing is the travel, how it feels, right?
Yep.
So if you do this to one string and the other one, you go, oh, I can't even, right?
Move. It's probably too tight. Yep.
Too tight. And so they break it, and then they'll go, yeah, it's the brand of string. And that's why I learned this, with all the guitar players and giving me their packs of strings over the years is my theory is they've all done something once, and whatever they did, whatever brand they were using at that time, right? It's almost like food poisoning. Like, right? I went to Jack in the Box one day and I got food poisoning at night, so I'm not eating Jack in the Box again. You're not 100% sure that was that place that did it, right?
No, it might have been the lettuce you had earlier.
Yeah, right.
It probably was, actually.
Right, it could be anything, right? Same thing. They equate their bad experience that happens to whatever brand they had at that time. The only truth that I've learned with strings, for me personally, is that when somebody says, because as a bass player, this is a real true thing, some brands of strings last longer. When we say last longer, we mean stay brighter, right? How long do they stay bright?
Right.
And I don't have any theory or idea of a brand that somehow lasts longer than others. But what I've learned is the makeup of your oils and the acids in your skins and stuff just have certain reactions to certain types of strings, and certain strings you can get away with longer than others. And, but that I get, one string somehow, because based on your body type and skin type or whatever you want to call it, right?
Yep.
Can last a little longer, brighter wise, staying brighter, but
it does. That makes a huge difference. Some people I've seen it. Some people have acid for sweat, and there's nothing you can do about that. And it's going to eat them. Most people don't have that problem. What most people have an issue with, almost everybody, is their hands are not as clean as they think they are. Like there was nothing on my hands. There's nothing on my hands. And it's like, if you really want your strings to last a long time, or as long as they possibly can, you wipe them off before you start playing.
Yep.
You actually wash your hands, first of all. Wipe them off before you start playing. Wipe them off after you're done playing. Most people are shocked at how much more life they get out of it. And that's just mostly for the listeners. I know you know that. But it's crazy. Like people are like, my hands are clean. I'm like, I just watched you eat Jack in the Box. Like, no, they're not.
When we opened the shop, I was so proud of myself. I came up with this idea. And so I had this guy, his name's Phil, ironically, and he built them for me. And so what we did is we built these stations. They're about as wide, 12 inches by 12 inches towers that would be this tall. And inside the box of the tower was a trash can. So imagine that, right? It's like a 12 inch by 12 inch tower. It's got a little trash can with a hole. You could throw it in there. Yep. And on the top, like a cartridge holder, we would load in unscented baby wipes.
There you go. Yeah.
And I would have them all over the store, and everywhere on the store, I still have those signs to this day because I love them. It says, please wipe or wash hands before handling instruments. There was no don't touch. There was no ask for help. It was just, please wipe or wash hands before touching instruments. Right. And it was amazing because people would be like, what? And we'd go, yeah, you could use the restroom in the back, or you could just use the wipe station. Right. And this worked for years. People loved it. Like people, guys in the store loved it. Loved the idea. Like, remember, this is way before COVID and all that crazy stuff, right? Like people weren't even thinking germs. They're just thinking like, this is great. Wipe my hands, right? Throw it in the station, grab a guitar, wipe it when I'm done. This is the crazy part of the story. This went on for years until one day we couldn't find unscented, because we needed unscented baby wipes with no lotions.
Yeah, 100%.
And then literally one day, it was like, we couldn't find them anymore. They don't exist. We went everywhere. Weird. I mean, literally everywhere. Every baby wipe now has either scent in it or lotion, right?
And you don't want that on the guitar.
No, and so we had to stop. Like we had to retire the stations. We threw them away, and I still have the signs, but it was like, I was so proud, and we thought about it. We thought about, now wipes, handy wipes and stuff. But the reason why we did that was, my logic was, because every once in a while you get that guy and he'd be like, what if this gives me a rash? I'm like, well, it's made for a baby's ass. I mean, I guess your hands are more delicate than a baby's ass. I don't know what to tell you. Right?
Sounds like you're pretty sensitive.
Yeah. Like, I'm like, if it's right. Basically, my whole logic was, if it's going to get you, I don't think there's anything we could have done about it. Right.
No, you probably would have got it from the guitar.
Yeah. Right. So but for that same reason, because it wasn't even just keep the guitars clean. It was literally, I have a huge thing about guitar strings. And it's fanatical, so you know. I have no hands-off policies with my friends and guitars, right?
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Same.
But none of my friends can touch my guitars without washing their hands first.
There you go.
It is absolutely, and it's not a phobic thing, right? Or what do we call it? ADD or whatever. OCD. It's not an OCD thing. It's a bass player thing. Right? Bass players, like, I like bright strings. So like, if it's like, can I play your bass? I'm like, wash your hands first. We're trying to keep these things as bright for as long as we can, buddy.
Bass strings ain't cheap. Like they're hard to make. I'm here to tell you, they're freaking hard to make. Ugh.
And expensive. That's why bass players laugh at guitar players, right? When they're like, $15 for strings, that's a joke.
Yep.
Try 40.
And then if you play flats, whoo.
Flats. Well, flats though, here's the cool thing about flats for me. I use flats and I'll use tape wounds too, right? Those last forever though.
Sure.
Forever. Because you know how, actually, if they go dull, who cares? And what I do is I take them off and then I wrap them back up and put them in a bag, and I'll pull them back out and put them under the bass again. I don't care because
you don't use them for everything.
Yeah, I don't use them for everything. And usually, like I said, if you're switching to that, you're trying to get a dead sound,
yes, definitely,
out of the instrument.
We've been working on them for a long time. It's a weird thing because every flat, there's so many variables with flats. People don't realize there's like there's multiple layers on most bass strings, but like there's multiple layers of wrap. Then there's the flat wrap. There's the width of the flat wrap. There's how close together you make the flat will determine it. You can literally wind the flat ribbon with a wider gap or a narrower gap, and it'll be the difference between it coiling up real slinky or standing out perfectly straight.
Right.
And it's so many variables, too many to even get into. Polishing, all this stuff. But the thing is like with flats is like trying to get something, because some people are like, I hate Ernie Ball flats, or I hate Labella flats, or I hate this flat, and I like this, whatever. We had to come to the conclusion of like, we're not going to please everybody. We just have to make a flat that we really, really like. And some people are going to hate it, and some people are going to love it, and we just have to deal with it. So, there's so many ways to make a flat wound string. It's weird.
Hello there. I'd like to introduce you to your new best friend, the Chase Bliss Audio Lossy. Lossy is a collaboration between Chase Bliss and Goodhertz. And it's meant to give you some control over those weird digital artifacts that come with very compressed audio. You're hearing it right now. All the changes that are taking place are strictly coming from my playing dynamics. I'm just interacting with the pedal and letting it do its thing. In some true stereo goodness. If you'd like some more details about Lossy, I'd invite you to head over to chaseblissaudio.com. I think you're going to like what you find.
Hi, this is Chad Nicefield.
And this is Justin Press.
We're the host of Making Waves, the Shiprock podcast, a part of the Sound Talent Media Podcast Network. We're inviting you to sail away with us on an epic journey in musical enlightenment. Every week, we bring you only the best artists in rock music and discuss everything from the cruise, to the stage, to the saga of being a professional recording artist. We'll have lots of special guests along the way, so tune in every week.
Your stateroom is available every Monday morning, so welcome aboard.
Well, I mean, some manufacturers use the flat ribbon. Some people, they grind it, right? They'll grind them down.
You got to do both.
That?
Oftentimes.
You can do both. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's nuts. I like flat wounds for both bass and guitar. You know what I mean? It's like that sometimes, vibed instrument.
Yeah, totally.
There was this girl, her name was Elizabeth. And she worked for JHS Strings.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't play guitar. She didn't know anything about guitars.
Okay.
but she was who I had to deal with JHS strings. This is years and years and years ago. And this is why I'm only telling you that backstory to tell you this, the weird that this beautiful thing came out of that situation. I was talking about strings one day, and she said, because she sold strings all day. She was just a rep selling strings all day, right?
Mm-hmm.
No emotional connection, no opinions, right?
Right.
No, nothing. She's just like, to her, she could have been selling, strawberries, or it could have been,
Toilet
like
paper,
coffee,
whatever.
Right, toilet
Yeah.
paper, right? It's And what she said was, she goes, her advice to me, she goes, I've learned one thing. And I go, what? She goes, you don't pick the strings, the guitar does. And I said, oh, that's interesting. And she said, that's what I've learned. She's like, all you guys have all these theories. Right? I play this, I play that. And she goes, and what I've learned is that the guitar picks the strings, the type of string, what it sounds good with, what works with it, right? And so we had this little philosophical moment. I really appreciated that she had no bias in the game of this, right? There was nothing, right? Other than probably she'd like me to buy GHS, right? And here's what I learned from this. I started applying that to everything. And one of the things I would do is like, this guitar is really bright. I want to put nickels on it, see what happens, right? And I'm like, oh, I don't like nickels because they're a little softer. The magnetic field's not as strong, right? But on this guitar, all of a sudden, I'm like, man, this is it.
Right.
Like the problem fixed, right? I don't like, NYXLs. I don't like those kind of strings because I work on guitars. Those strings will chew through frets. I'm not a big fan. I'm not a fan of, hey, my strings last 3 times as long. I'm like, yeah, and your frets don't now. Let's add that math. You're right. Like, let's, you know what I mean? That could, something's got to lose.
At some point, yeah.
If the string's not wearing out, the fret is. That's usually something's got to wear. Of course, you could always have stainless steel frets too. But there's a guitar. All of a sudden, one day you put them on and you go, oh yeah, that's the right guitar, right?
Absolutely.
My ES335, I bought it to put flat ones on it. I put flat ones on it. It just sounded like dog crap. Just nothing vibed. I took them off, didn't work. Put them on S2 semi-hollow. It was amazing, right?
There you go.
Yeah. So I've learned that her little idea that the guitar picks the strings, you don't. The type, again, not the brand, but the type.
Yeah.
Is just, and so what's great about that is like, it makes a tough question for me when people go, what gauge strings do you use? And I go, well, that's the funny thing. The guitar picks the strings. So I have 10 to 46 on some, I have 9 to 42 on some, I have 9 to 46 on some, right? It's just, I have I don't know why, it's actually that PRS, that black one, single cut. I can't point at it. It's somewhere right here, right there. That has 11s. It's 25 even. It's not 25 and a half or 24 and 3/4. I don't know why, but that guitar sounds and plays great with 11s. But I don't have another single guitar. It's not in a different tuning. It's just that plays great.
It's a weird thing. I mean, people get really opinionated about it too. Like I seen somebody comment on one of our things the other day, like anybody that plays anything heavier than 8s is just an idiot. And I'm like, and I personally am like, because I grew up playing like metal and punk and jumping around and doing all this crazy stuff and beating my guitars. And the reason I started playing 11s was because I kept breaking my 10s and 9s. That's the only reason. I had no other reason. I was like, well, every band practice, I'm breaking my, because we're jumping around and being idiots and all this stuff. And like, well, I'll go up a gauge. And so I started playing 11s. Now I'm just used to it. And if I play 8s, I'm overbending. Like I'm like, it just feels terrible to me. And it has nothing to do. Some people want to make it like, oh yeah, SRV used 13s because he was a real man. I'm
and
like,
on Coke.
Yeah, I don't know. On lots of Coke. And I'm just like, no, I like heavier gauge strings than maybe some people do, just because I'm used to it. And so anything lighter than that just feels weird to me. And that's just me. And I don't think that people who play 8s are like wusses or anything. I'm just like, that's not my thing. So this guy's like, anybody who's playing 8s is just more than 8s is just an idiot. I'm like, I don't think that's probably right. Considering that we don't sell that many 8s.
Well, what's funny about that is, well, one, I don't like anybody who I don't say it. See, I'm about to say it. I don't like it when people talk in that language of like, it's this or nothing. Right. But Paul Gilbert did an interview once. I like string interviews, right? Good.
Okay.
Some of the best string interviews. Paul Gilbert did a great one. They said, what gauge strings do you use? The answer was so amazing. He's like, at the beginning of the tour, 9s. Middle of the tour, 10s. I'm like, oh my God, that makes so much sense, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Oh yeah. I'm like, because I've had that same problem. Like all of a sudden, I'm just like it's like you're working out too much or something, right? You're just like, oh, this is too easy. And then all of a sudden you take a hiatus, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, this doesn't work. John Mayer was asked about string gauge, and they like, what string gauge? And he said, this is in a Guitar World article years and years and years ago, decade at least. And he said, well, it doesn't matter what gauge you use. It goes, it doesn't matter what gauge you use if you can't bend it with any kind of emotion.
Yeah.
Right. And what's funny is I had a hard time learning this, like a hard time learning this. I don't like the feel of a string. I don't like pushing. Like I don't physically enjoy it. Like I don't enjoy it's like walking uphill, right? I'd rather walk on a flat surface than uphill, right? I can walk up the hill. I just don't enjoy that feeling, right? Of the struggle. When I play a string and I bend it, I don't like the feel of struggle. Like I don't feel like I'm like, oh, it's too much work to do it that way, right? So my logic was I would put 9s on, 9 gauge, right? And I'd play, and all my bends were sharp. Because now without any struggle, I was supposed to use, apparently I didn't know, I'm dumb. You're supposed to use your ear.
Right.
You're supposed to use your ear to bend it to the correct pitch. Instead, I used muscle memory.
Yep.
Right?
I'm guilty of that too.
Yeah. Like if I push this hard, I'm there. Well, when I went to a lighter string, I pushed that hard. I wasn't there. I was above there. Right. And so unfortunately, whether I enjoy the 10s or the 9s, I have to play the 10s, because what I've learned is muscle memory is a lot easier to rely on than listening all the time.
I think so too. Yeah. And I'm sure at some point I'll probably want to, play lighter strings. Maybe, I don't know. I've been playing it like this for like 20 years. I don't know. Maybe not, maybe I'm not going to ever switch. I don't know. I'm with you. I like at least a 10. That's just 10 and a half is actually great for me. I like 10 and a halves. They're nice in between. That's what I like. But.
And like I said, sometimes, it's like short scale, like when kids guitars, my biggest complaint, kids guitars, they should all play 11s.
Why is that?
Because I did a video. That video was one of the early viral ones too. I told you we had the lesson academies. So we're selling lots of short scale guitars, and this is a problem, right? You're starting kids, dude. Cheap guitars, right? Short scale guitars are tough. So what I learned about it is a 9 gauge versus 10 gauge. When we're talking about difficulty to play, we're talking about bending.
Yeah.
Right.
And there's a little bit of like push down, but on electric guitar, it's not so big.
But here's what's great, because you play 11s, right? So it's a perfect example. You do 1 million setups. I haven't done 1 million yet. So let's say you do. You do thousands of setups.
I've done 10. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. That's a so here's what's funny. And when you do it for customers, right? Like I've done it, just thousands of them for customers. They all have, a lot of them have unrealistic expectations, right?
Sure.
Okay. Yeah. Right. Like I want my action like slammed on the deck and no buzzing, right?
Well,
yeah. Okay.
Sure.
Okay. And what I learned the hard way was I used to get really irritated with the guitar techs in town, the older guys that would talk to everybody like they were the idiot. I'm like, I'm not going to tell you you're an idiot. What I'm going to do is explain the problem. Here's the problem. The lower I go, the more the string is going to spin and hit the fret.
Right.
If we increase the gauge of string, we're going to decrease the amount it spins, right? How far that travel is, right? So if I put 11 to 48 or 11 to 50 on this guitar, and I put the action really, really low, it's not going to buzz very much comparatively. Right? Okay. We're going to, all things being equal, equalized distance, right? So measurement off the bottom of the string to the fret, 9 gauge 10 gauge, 11 gauge on the same guitar, same setup, is going to buzz less than 9s.
Yes.
Right. Which is why we increase the gauge of the string when we decrease the tension, right? We tune down, we increase the gauge to stop that big spin. I like to use the jump rope logic. You ever see two girls playing jump rope? What happens when they come closer together, right?
Right.
If they don't pull, right? All of a sudden the rope starts hitting the ground, right? That's what happens when, either you decrease the distance of the guitar, the distance, or decrease the tuning, right? It spins more and it's going to hit that fret. So using that logic on a 3/4 guitar, if you use the logic of, if I put 11 to 50 on a 3/4 guitar, right? You're thinking, it's going to be hard to play. I actually argued that if you played a 3/4 like an Ibanez micro guitar or a Squier 3/4 or one of those Jacksons, if I put 11s on it and set it up, and you grab a full size equivalent of that guitar with 9s, they're going to feel almost identical to you.
Right.
Because although the strings are much smaller on the other guitar, the tension and the distance, right? Okay. So
scaling changes that a lot. You're right. Yeah.
Sure. Right. So here's the thing. With the child in mind, the younger player in mind, with the bigger string, I can get the action lower without as much buzz, right? So the notes can actually sing a little bit, right? Would it be harder for them to bend compared to like a 10 gauge set? A little bit, but if they're beginner, they're not bending a whole lot. They're pushing down. And
they're not there yet. Yeah.
Yeah. And the down, like you said, it's a little harder down too, but only if the distance was the same.
Right.
But I can bring the distance closer together with the bigger gauge string. So if you put 11 to 48s or 11 to 50s on a 3/4 guitar, it feels like a normal size guitar with 9s. Sounds a little better, especially with that, the bigger string. And I would say this to every company, I'd be like, you should ship guitars like this. This is how you should ship your 3/4 guitars.
Right.
Because it was killing me financially, because what's happening in the store is we would get the 3/4 guitars in stock, and guess what I would do with them? I'd set them all up and put 11s on them. Because I want those kids to be able to play, because, it's how you start the money journey, right? They got to become guitar players, right? But I like analogies and jokes, and one of my favorite one was like, the difference between me and Best Buy is Best Buy sells TVs and I sell guitars, and all you have to have is ass and eyes to buy a TV, but you got to be able to play guitar for me to sell you a guitar.
Right? That's right.
So that's why I like the 11s or thicker gauge strings on the shorter scale guitars. And if you haven't tried it, I tell everybody, what I noticed is this argument, when I argue with people, like kind of like that guy, like anybody who plays 8s or idiots or whatever. Right. When I have this argument, it's never with anyone who's done it. I'm like, just do it. Like, because your brain is telling you that 11s is harder to play than 9s. I'm telling you that 11s feel like 9s on a guitar that's short scale. It's going to feel the same to you.
Yes.
You won't
if you want to like run this experiment, you can do it on our tension calculator. Change the scale length. And look at it. It's not going to be that crazy. And same thing with Ariel Posen. Everyone's like, he plays 17s. What an insane man. He's playing a 25.5-inch scale tuned to B.
Right.
It's not that crazy. Like, everyone's like, he's so insane for playing 17 to whatevers. And I'm like, no, he has to play that gauge on that scale length guitar in that tuning, or it will play like crap. It won't work.
Right.
I thought he was crazy too. And then I played his guitar. I was like, oh no, duh. Of course this is why this is like this. Of course. This makes sense. So scale length changes everything. It changes so much about how the guitar plays and what you're going to want to put on it. It really does change a lot. Right.
Yeah. And I've played 8s. I played 7s. I did a video, this time at this time in my life, I've done all the videos, I think, but I did a video. I think we called it the Billy Gibbons challenge, because Billy Gibbons was using those 7s. And, what made me laugh about that video that I didn't put in the video? This is earlier me that didn't know certain things would be like great content. Right.
Right.
When I ordered those strings, I think I ordered them from Dunlop, because I was a dealer at the time. So I ordered from Dunlop. And we ordered 4 packs of 7-gauge strings, because I thought, okay, what if we break one? Right?
Sure.
Okay. So we'll get an extra pack. And then I got 2 of the guitar teachers at the studio to do the challenge with me, because I go, we'll do comparative notes at the end. Right. The idea was set up 3 guitars with 7-gauge strings, and we all played them for 1 week. And then we came together at the end of the video and discussed what did we learn after playing. Mm-hmm. My whole argument was I don't know how to translate the information to the viewers besides like explaining what happened. How did it feel? Like, right? I played them for a week. What did I learn? And I remember the Dunlop rep's like, how many packs you need? I go 4. And he goes, wow, we're out of stock. That's all we have in stock. And he goes, and he went to look at like when the last time they stocked, and he goes, oh, they've been sitting there for over 2 years. He goes, apparently we don't sell a lot of 7-gauge. And what I learned about 7s was they literally feel like nothing.
Yep.
Like nothing.
Like nothing. Yep.
They were almost impossible to break.
Really?
In the video, yeah, one of the guitar teachers is trying to break it. And you know what it kept doing? It just kept stretching.
Oh, weird.
The high E just kept stretching. Yeah, at one point he's pulling it like a bow and arrow before it snaps. Like it's like literally gets it out like this far and it snaps. And I was like, and we found it just kept stretching, right?
Weird.
Yeah, we thought that was kind of strange. I didn't like it, so you know, at all. it was not a feeling I would like to reproduce as a guitar. We did have a veteran email us and say that he watched the video and he bought a set, and he's, because of his hand damage, he can only play about 10 minutes a day, and now he's up to an hour a day playing 7s.
Perfect. Hey, That's what that stuff's for.
And then what's great about that email gave me the epiphany about it, going, wait a minute. Why am I not thinking 8s and 7s? Who's telling you 8s and 7s are great? Billy Gibbons? Who else? And I'm like, wait a minute. You mean this long line of dudes who are in their 70s are telling you how, right? I'm like, that makes total sense.
Well, and Billy Gibbons specifically is a little dude.
Yes.
Like, he's not very big. If you look at a picture of him, he's always been thin. He's a small guy. Like, I mean, not always. He's just, these days, in the days where he became known for preaching the gospel of 7s, right, he's been a little dude. Yes. And like, not that I'm just a towering giant either, but he's not very big, and he's old. Like he's in his 70s. And he's so good, he could probably make spaghetti sound good on a guitar because he's Billy Gibbons.
That's the best part. You just said it, best part. It doesn't matter. It's like I said, 8s, 7s. So if somebody says, oh, you shouldn't play anything above 8s, I don't know about that, but I do know this. You can make 8 sound great. You can make 10 sound great. You can make 11 sound great, right? It's like I said, if you gave me 8s, I mean, I could relearn because I'm not totally stupid, right? Although this is a great story. You saw my dog earlier. She was here, right? My dog is 14 years old. This is, if you ever want to learn a story about the saying, can't teach an old dog new tricks. So I bought this house in 2016. We had a sliding glass door, and in the sliding glass door, we had a dog door. One of those insert panels.
Yeah. I
didn't like the sliding glass doors. Finally, about 2 years ago, I convinced Shauna to put in French doors. So we put in French doors. To do the French doors, they had to move the dog door. Right? So we put the dog door on the wall adjacent, right? Does that make sense?
Yes.
It took my dog a year. Every day, right? The dog even crapped like on the tile in front of the door. Because
they're like, where's the dog door? Where's the dog door?
Yeah. Now, my other dog, who is now 6, he was 4 years old. He just went through that's where the dog door is. And he just went out the dog door every day, right? My wife, she figured out to get bells. And she would, so the dog, the 14-year-old dog would go outside and wouldn't it would stand, stare at you through the door, the glass door, sad, just sad, let me in. And we're like, please. The dog door's right. It's 7 feet to your left.
Right. Just go that way.
Just go where the door is. So she would start using the bells, right? To jingle the bells outside the door, and she'd come through. And she would go, then we'd get her to go through the dog door. And to this day, now it's been 2 years, she's got about a 60% success rate of using the dog door versus just waiting at the door, right? And we're doing this, and it hit me like a ton of bricks, like they say. I go, oh my God, you can't teach an old dog new tricks.
New tricks.
That's not just a saying. That's like a thing. It makes sense. And so I go, is that me? Is that what happens if you try to teach me something now? Like, Phil, if you just use 9s, it'd be easier. And I'm like, I just can't. My muscle memory bend. Like,
it's not that I can't. It's that I don't want to. I don't want. I've tried it. I didn't like it. I don't want to. And maybe that is a result of getting older. I'm just like, but I don't care. I like 10s and 11s, and that's what I like on standard tuning. Like, it's just my thing, and I don't care if Jose, which was, I remember his username, it was Jose something. I don't care if he thinks I'm an idiot for using 11s.
I think I read once the guitar tech for Stevie Ray Vaughan said he used 13s because he was on drugs and he was breaking them on stage.
Sure.
And I'm pretty sure, and I forgot the guitar tech's name. He was then John Mayer's guitar tech.
Yes, we've actually been talking to him about some stuff.
Yeah.
Ooh, foreshadowing.
And and I'm pretty sure he said in this thing I read that Stevie Ray Vaughan, when he wasn't on drugs, they switched him to 11s. Right? And I'm like, well, that makes sense.
It's Rene Martinez. That's his name.
Rene Martinez. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Legend.
And see, me, the problem is I can't function drinking. I didn't discover drinking until my 30s, like late 30s.
You didn't drink at all till your late 30s?
No.
Wild. Okay.
Yeah.
That's
well, I didn't
probably
like it.
Probably for the best.
Yeah. Well, it was like, it's like, I didn't care, you know what I mean? It wasn't something I was into.
Sure.
So, yeah. And just like what happened was, I discovered, look, I told you I was a poor kid, right? So to me, like when your friends wanted to drink, it was like Pabst Blue Ribbon or
Natty
probably
Light.
Insult. Yeah. It was always some kind of,
not great
beer like that.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh, beer stinks, right? Like, oh, it's gross. And then late 30s, I discovered like craft beers and stuff, and I'm like, oh, this is kind of an adventure. But the important part of the thing is I cannot play at any level of intoxication, like at all.
Okay.
Like even with because I guess like you just have to learn to do that, I guess, right? I can't do it. It's like if I drink a beer and you give me a guitar, it's almost like I'm just lost. Like I can't function through it. It's, so that's why I can't relate to the whole, okay, if when I'm drunk, maybe I'm a little stronger and I can go up gauge. I can't physically play. I feel a little lost on the instrument.
Cocaine is a different thing.
Oh yeah. That's probably, see now next I'll have to try.
Well, when you start getting into a heavy blow habit, then maybe you can figure out a reason to play 13s.
I'm gonna do it. Let's see. I don't even know. Let's see if I know. I don't think I do. So 13. Where would a 13 in at? 58? What is that? 62?
62.
Do you
usually?
know?
Yeah. I mean, it depends. I actually don't know what Stevie's. We have a blog article on it on our website, but I don't remember the numbers off the top of my head. What Stevie's gauges were.
But that's So those gauges are just too wacky for me.
I could have fun with them, but like that's not something I'd want to live with. That's a little too much for standard tuning anyway. Like I got a 13 and a half on my baritone. That's tuned to B. It's no thanks. I don't want to be doing that. Well, Phil, we've been talking for a long time, and my phone's been blown up for the last 20 minutes. So I think we probably should both get back to work. What do you think?
Yeah, work sucks, but I got to get back to it too.
Dude, I could talk to you all day. I really enjoyed this conversation. I knew it was going to be good because we've had good talks off of the recording. So thank you for taking the time to do this, and I really appreciate everything that you do. Thank
you for having me on, man. I'm honored. It's like really, I know we talked about it before, but when you texted me the other day, I was like, oh yeah, that'd be cool. Like it'd be great. Yeah. It's long overdue. Every time I got done at Gearfest, I'm like, I got to get Phil on the show. I got to get Phil on the show. Yeah. So we finally did it, and we'll do it again one of these days. Absolutely. Anytime. Right on. All right, folks. I'll talk to you all on the internet, and Phil, I'll talk to you for a couple minutes when we hang up here. All right. Bye, everybody.
Alrighty, folks. Yes, I'm still here in Tennessee, and I hope you enjoyed that episode with Phil. Now, if you are wondering, what are we doing for Patreon this week? Don't you worry. I'm giving the folks a sneak peek at an upcoming episode with Mike Carpenter from the band Uncle Lucius. Mike was a very great guest. We talked about gear, but we also talked about the crazy journey that Uncle Lucius has had as a band, and it's a really, really great episode. I might put it out publicly eventually, much like this one. Okay, I will. But the patrons are getting it first this week. That is the bonus, and that will be coming to the Patreon player. If you like to support the podcast and you want to get bonus episodes, that is the way to do it. So head over there and check it out if you can. $5 a month gets you those bonus episodes, and it helps out myself and my family immensely. So thank you to everyone who has done that. Also, thank you to Phil for hanging out with me for so long and really just being so candid. It was a really great conversation. If you like Phil's stuff, please go let him know how much you enjoyed this episode. I'd love to have him back on sometime. And again, big shout out to Phil for everything he does for the guitar community and for taking the time. All right, folks, this is the last episode that I'll be doing the intro from some remote location for a little while. I'll be back in town in a couple days and back to the usual stuff. So if you've been trying to get a hold of me and I've been a little spotty, I apologize. I will be back to the normal scheduled activity here shortly. All right, folks, thank you very much. Bye-bye.
One last thing before we totally sign off here, I just want to remind you that if you do any shopping at Stringjoy, that's Stringjoy guitar strings made in Nashville, that will help me out as well. As I've said for years, I'm heavily involved in that company, and I really do think they're making the best products on the market. So if you would like to try custom strings, go to tonemob.com/stringjoy and check them out today. I seriously love what the team down there is doing. I help them out with all kinds of things, and by you supporting them, you are also supporting me as well. And hey, you need some strings, so why not get some custom strings just for your guitar and playing style? Again, the link for that is tonemob.com/stringjoy, and that will take you right to their website, and you can do all your shopping through there, and that will help everyone involved out. So thank you very much. Talk to you next time. We are brought to you by the wonderful folks at Gun Street Wiring Shop. Yes, Gun Street Wiring Shop. I've talked about them before. I used to say based out of Bend, Oregon, but guess what? Sean moved to my neck of the woods. Sean's in Portland. Sean is awesome and has helped me with a bunch of stuff lately. And if you have wiring needs for your guitar, he can help you too. If you want to get weird with it, he can get weird. If you just need to spruce things up a little bit, there's your guy. He takes all the guesswork out of doing your guitar wiring, and he makes it simple, and his customer service is top-notch, and I can't say enough good things about Gun Street as a company. I really respect Sean and what he's all about, and the product is top-notch. I've got 3 different guitars that now have Gun Street harnesses in them, and I could not be happier. So go to gunstreetwiringshop.com and check them out.
Hello out there! Yes, hello out there, everyone. I'm Hal Schwartz.
And I'm Phil McKnight. Together we host None But the Brave, a podcast dedicated to the music and career of Bruce Springsteen.
Bruce and E Street Band are on tour right now for the first time in 6 years, and we're taking a detailed look at what's happening on stage in our bi-weekly episodes.
We've also been recently joined by some very exciting guests, including rock journalist Warren Zanes and Stephen Hayden, Backstreet's Magazine founder Charles Cross, and Barstool's Kirk Minahan.
If you're a diehard Springsteen fan, this is the show for you.
So please subscribe to None But the Brave on your favorite podcasting platform, and we hope to see you further on up the road.
Thank you so much! We'll be seeing you!
Hey everyone, this is Tuck from Fit for a King, an off-road minivan. Every week I bring you fun interviews alongside your favorite metalcore entertainers with my new podcast, Get Tucked. Join me every Monday with bands like Counterparts, Crystal Lake, like Moths to Flames, and many more. We play unsigned and undiscovered bands, deep dive into each artist's history, and of course provide the greatest breakdowns in current metalcore. Tune in to Get Tucked every Monday, out now through Sound Talent Media.